On my son's birthday, I came home to hear him say, "I wish Mom's lover was my dad." Then I saw my wife smilingly peeling and feeding him shrimp to that man as if I were the outsider in my own home. This is how I turned and walked away, choosing a life that would eventually leave her begging for forgiveness in the very cage she had created for herself. On the day of my son's birthday, I was a little late because of a research project, but as I stood by the door, I heard Leo Hayes, wrapped around Grace Davies's former pursuer's neck, say, "Uncle Ethan, I wish you were my dad. Then we could be with Mom forever." Grace Davies also looked at Ethan Riley with a tender gaze, eyes brimming with unyielding affection. Suddenly, I felt exhausted, a complete failure afterward. I filed for divorce and applied to join the Apex Institute. Since I couldn't contribute to my small family, I decided to give my all for the nation. When Professor Thompson saw the application form for the Apex Institute I had submitted, his face was filled with surprise. "Marcus, what is this? Do you really want to join the institute?" My expression was serious, and I answered earnestly, "Yes. Have you thought this through? Once you're in, it's not easy to get out. You're still young, and you have a wife and child. What will happen to them if you go in?" I lowered my gaze to hide the complex emotions in my eyes. Of course, I knew that once you entered the Apex Institute, you couldn't easily leave. You could only leave when the research project was completely finished, or if the project failed multiple times and the higher-ups abandoned the research. This process could take anywhere from 3 to 5 years, or even 10 to 20 years. As for Grace Davies and Leo Hayes, I chuckled self-deprecatingly. They already had a better, more suitable family member, one who would take better care of them. Otherwise, I wouldn't have dared to harden my heart and leave. With that thought, I looked up and met Professor Thompson's eyes, stating seriously, "Professor, thank you for your kindness, but I want to say, even though we are living in peaceful times, there are still too many unknowns and fields waiting for us to explore. Perhaps one day, we can find a way to conquer cancer, overcome resource scarcity." "Professor, you are also a researcher. You should know that a researcher's greatest mission in life is to uncover unknown surprises through continuous exploration. I believe in you, and I hope you can believe in me too." Professor Thompson stared at me blankly, then burst out laughing. "Ha ha ha, good. I knew I wasn't wrong about you. I look forward to the day your research comes to fruition, benefiting countless people. I'll submit your application for review right now. You should receive a response within about 3 business days. Pack your things and be ready to leave at any time." A smile finally appeared on my face. I nodded in agreement and turned to leave. Before going home, I made a trip to the mall and bought some things for Grace Davies and Leo Hayes. The moment I pushed open the door, I saw Grace Davies, Leo Hayes, and Grace Davies's pursuer, Ethan Riley, gathered around the dining table, eating. It was a warm scene of a happy family of 3. Hearing the movement at the door, all 3 turned their heads simultaneously. My gaze met theirs, and I saw Ethan Riley peeling and feeding him shrimp to Leo Hayes's mouth. This scene pierced my heart deeply. They looked like the truly happy family of 3, and I was like an evil person who had suddenly appeared, trying to break their blissful atmosphere. Ethan Riley was the first to speak. He spoke as if he were the true man of the house. "You're back. Have you eaten? Do you want to join us?" I stood at the doorway, unable to go in or retreat, feeling utterly awkward. "No. Uncle Ethan made the food. I don't want him to eat it." It was Leo Hayes who spoke, his eyes filled with disgust and disdain as he looked at me. Those words were like a knife twisting in my heart, but in front of my child, I still forced myself to endure the dull ache, putting on a smile as I walked towards him. "Leo, be good. Daddy isn't hungry. Daddy bought you toys when he came back today." As I spoke, I pulled out Transformers and other action figures, along with several small Lego sets, from the bag I was carrying. I thought he would be happy to see the toys, but the next second, he snatched them away with a look of disgust and violently threw them at my face. My nose stung, and a sharp pain shot through me. When I opened my eyes, I saw Leo Hayes's vicious glare, and he spat out the most hateful words. "Who wants your toys? The toys Uncle Ethan buys me are much bigger than these. How disgusting. I'm not eating anymore." With that, he jumped off the chair, turned, and stomped up the stairs. I watched my son's retreating back, the pain on my face a fraction of the pain in my heart. This was my son, the culmination of love between me and the woman I cherished most. I once believed that our happy family of 3 would be the happiest among countless ordinary families, But I didn't know when we had reached a crossroads. Even though we could still see each other, we were drifting further and further apart at that moment. The living room fell into a complete silence. After a long moment, Ethan Riley said, "I'll go check on him," and followed him upstairs. "Why are you back?" I turned to look at the woman who spoke. My wife, the woman I had loved for 6 years. Her face was expressionless, and her gaze was unwavering as she looked at me, as if I were a stranger, but we were supposed to be the closest people in the world. I opened my mouth, wanting to say something, but not a single word came out. Grace Davies saw my silence, scoffed softly, and stood up. "Next time, let me know in advance when you're coming back, and don't blame Leo. You're not the one who usually takes care of him, so it's fine if he's not close to you." With that, Grace Davies turned and walked upstairs. In an instant, the once lively and warm home became freezing cold again because of my presence. A bitter smile crept onto my lips. There truly was no place for me in this home. I slowly stood up, looking at the food on the table and the matching family dinnerware meant for a happy family of 3. An indescribable dull ache welled up in my heart once more. I slowed my steps and slowly went upstairs, stopping at Leo Hayes's bedroom door. Just as I was about to push the door open, I heard Grace Davies softly comforting Leo Hayes. "Leo, be good. Don't be angry anymore, okay?" The next second, Leo Hayes's whiny voice came through. "But I just don't like him. Mom, can you make him leave and let Uncle Ethan be my dad?" Grace Davies paused for a moment, silent for a few seconds, then nodded. "Okay, as long as you eat well and grow up happy every day. Uncle Ethan will be your dad." Leo Hayes laughed and, as if unsure, asked Ethan Riley again, "Uncle Ethan, are you willing to be my dad, okay?" Ethan Riley raised his hand and stroked Leo Hayes's head, his tone full of gentle affection. "Of course, Uncle Ethan would love to be your dad. As long as your mom gives me a chance, I can be your dad anytime." "Oh, stop it. Why would you say that in front of the child?" Grace Davies's coy words came through the door, but it was clear from her tone that she was thrilled and secretly hopeful. "Then let's go to Adventureland Park tomorrow, okay?" Leo Hayes whined. "My classmates have all been there. They all went with their mom and dad, and they even took pictures with them." Hearing my son's words, my heart ached so much I could barely breathe, as if a large hand was squeezing and crushing it. I thought that as long as I worked hard and gave them what I believed to be the best, they would be happy. But now it seemed that what I could give them was what they needed least. I gently placed the bag with the toys by the door and turned to go to the study. At this moment, I was absolutely certain that my decision to leave was the right one. What I couldn't give them, someone else could. I printed out the divorce agreement, signed it, and placed it in my drawer, quietly waiting for 3 days to pass. The next morning, before I was even fully awake, I heard a startled cry explode beside my ear. I groggily opened my eyes and saw Leo Hayes, fully dressed, arms crossed, standing by the bed with a displeased look, staring at me. "Wake up quickly. I'm going to Adventureland Park today. Get up now, and we can go together." With that, Leo Hayes turned and left, muttering as he went, "Mom is so annoying. Why did she make me ask him to come along? He's such a lazy pig. He can't even wake up. What kind of researcher is he?" As Leo Hayes walked further away, his voice completely faded. Watching my sons retreating back, I remembered the purpose of my return, to spend more time with them. Now, it seemed that just being able to spend more time with my son would be enough. I quickly washed up, got ready, and put on my best clothes before heading downstairs. But when I got downstairs, I found that the 3 of them had already finished breakfast and left. I quickly followed them, and just as I was about to open the car door, I heard Grace Davies's voice. "The dining table at home hasn't been cleaned yet. You should clean up the house first, and then take a taxi over." With that, Grace Davies gave Ethan Riley a look, and Ethan Riley pressed the gas, driving the car straight past me. I watched the car drive away, a bitter smile on my face, and turned back into the house. After cleaning up the house and grabbing a quick bite, I took a taxi to Adventureland Park. When I arrived at Adventureland Park, I finally understood why I had been called there today. I spent the entire day acting as their personal assistant, either taking photos of the 3 of them or running errands and carrying their belongings. Although I felt a deep sadness, the thought that I would soon be leaving brought a sense of contentment. Knowing I could see Grace Davies and Leo Hayes so happy in their final moments together, I took many photos of the 3 of them, and for each one, I would ask them if it looked good. Gradually, Grace Davies's gaze towards me became somewhat strange. While Ethan Riley took Leo Hayes to the restroom, Grace Davies pulled me aside and whispered a warning. Marcus Hayes, I don't know what game you're playing, but I'm warning you, you weren't here for Leo Hayes' birthday before. And today you're at Adventureland Park to make it up to him. If Ethan Riley hadn't said that you're Leo Hayes' father after all, and we should bring you along, Leo Hayes and I wouldn't have wanted you here at all. I gave a bitter tug at the corner of my mouth, thinking that it wasn't because today was our wedding anniversary that she asked me to come along. I nodded. Okay, don't worry. I won't disturb your fun with Leo Hayes. I'll just take pictures and carry things. You. Grace Davies choked, momentarily at a loss for words. She looked at me with confusion in her eyes, wondering why I was so agreeable today. In the past, I would have been hurt and upset. Seeing Grace Davies, Leo Hayes, and Ethan Riley together would make me angry, I thought. Any man would find it difficult to calmly watch his wife and child interact with another man as if they were a family, but now, I wouldn't. I just wanted to see them as much as possible in my final moments. That would be enough. The four of us played all day and went to dinner together in the afternoon. At the restaurant, the three of them instantly drew everyone's attention the moment they walked in. It wasn't just their outfits. More importantly, they were all incredibly attractive. Grace Davies had been practicing dance since she was little, and her figure, elegance, and looks were clearly outstanding. Ethan Riley had also successfully started his own business in recent years, and his aura of a leader and the charm of a mature man were irresistible. Leo Hayes, needless to say, had chubby cheeks, big eyes, and fair skin like a cherubic child. I saw a couple not far away, where the girl was shaking the boy's arm. Wow, that family of three is so good-looking. What do you think our child will look like when we get married? The boy affectionately stroked the girl's head and smiled. My darling is so beautiful. Our child will definitely be beautiful too, when the child is a little older. We'll wear matching family outfits and go out looking amazing. I instantly understood Ethan Riley's intentions. The reason he wanted to bring me out today was so I could see firsthand how much the three of them resembled a happy family of three, and to remind me, through the eyes and words of others, that I didn't belong. I scoffed, thinking how slow I was. I only knew how to do research. In this regard, I was truly no match for Ethan Riley. I suddenly found myself quite impressed by Ethan Riley. I knew a little about his history with Grace Davies. I heard he had liked Grace Davies since high school, for 10 years now, and his original family background wasn't good, and his early personality was rather quiet and uninteresting, so he didn't dare to confess his feelings to Grace Davies, choosing to silently protect her instead. He watched Grace Davies date different men and finally marry me. It wasn't until 3 years ago, after he succeeded in his business venture, that he dared to openly appear before Grace Davies. I remember Ethan Riley even cried after drinking too much at our wedding. That day was quite awkward. He cried as he wished us happiness, 100 years of harmony, and for us to always be well. But now, he had intruded into our world, openly entering what was once solely our home. The four of us found a quiet spot and sat down. After we were seated, a waiter came in with menus. The waiter looked at the three of them and smiled, recommending, if customers are unsure what to choose, we also have family combo meal options. You can simply turn to the last few pages. Hearing this, Grace Davies and Ethan Riley both looked at me simultaneously. A flicker of guilt crossed Grace Davies's face, which she quickly replaced with the same cold expression she used to have towards me. Ethan Riley, however, wore a smile, as if enjoying the spectacle. He even proactively explained, "You misunderstood. We are not a happy family of three. They are the happy family of three." At these words, I saw the waiter's face instantly flush red. She lowered her head, secretly glanced at me, then quickly averted her eyes, stammering an apology. "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, please sir. Don't be angry." I looked at the waiter, who seemed to be a high school graduate working part-time, still exuding a strong student vibe. I shook my head slightly. "It's fine. I don't mind." Hearing this, Grace Davies frowned slightly, and Ethan Riley looked at me with surprise. Only Leo Hayes was happy. Grinning as he asked the waiter's sister, "Do you think he looks like my dad?" As Leo Hayes spoke, he took Ethan Riley's hand. The waiter looked startled, her eyes darting between the three of us, openly watching with undisguised curiosity. "Marcus, Leo Hayes is still young. Children say innocent things. Don't be angry." Ethan Riley's single sentence put me on a moral high ground. The people around us also heard the commotion and turned their heads in unison. I opened my mouth, but in the end, I only managed a quiet hum. I'm not angry, finally. They didn't order the family combo meal. But they also didn't ask for my opinion, ordering 5 dishes, 4 of which were spicy dishes I couldn't eat. The meal was tasteless. Like cardboard. I felt people occasionally looking our way. Their gazes were intense, as if trying to see right through me. Hey, can't you eat properly? Why are you sulking all day? You're such a buzzkill. I don't know why Uncle Ethan insisted on bringing you along. My son, clearly unhappy, spoke harshly. His voice was not low, attracting the attention of those around us again. Grace Davies's eyebrows furrowed slightly. Ethan Riley gently pulled Leo Hayes' hand and whispered, "You shouldn't talk to your father like that." Leo Hayes mumbled "oh" quietly and didn't look at me again. I forced a strained, fake smile and comforted him. "I'm sorry, Daddy was wrong, Leo. Don't be angry with Daddy anymore, okay? Daddy was thinking about something just now, but now Daddy isn't. Daddy will focus on eating." Grace Davies hadn't expected me to apologize. She looked at me suspiciously again, then only said one thing, "Just eat quickly." After the meal, I went to pay the bill under everyone's watchful eyes, while the 3 of them left holding hands. I heard various discussions behind me and chose to leave quickly. Upon reaching the house, Ethan Riley did not come in. Once he left, Leo Hayes' gaze towards me instantly changed. After he entered, he picked up things from the table and threw them at me. "It's all your fault. Why did you come back? The moment you came back, Uncle Ethan had to leave. I hate you. You're not as good as Uncle Ethan at all. You can't do anything. You only tell me to listen, only tell me to study hard, only ask me what I need and tell you." As he spoke, Leo Hayes started crying himself. In truth, I was also deeply upset. I had indeed spent most of my time on research these past few years, and my presence for my child and wife had been far too little. I knelt down and gently comforted him. "I'm sorry. Daddy was wrong, Leo. Please don't be angry with Daddy anymore, okay? I don't want you. Don't touch me. I want Uncle Ethan. I want Uncle Ethan to be my dad." As he struggled, his flailing hands slapped me several times, though he was just a child and his slaps didn't have much force. They stung so much on my face, burning so badly that tears streamed down my cheeks. Grace Davies, fearing I would get angry, quickly hugged Leo Hayes to comfort him. Then she looked at me coldly, her tone displeased. "If you have nothing to do, go for a walk. Don't always upset Leo Hayes." With that, she hugged Leo Hayes and returned to the bedroom. Soon after, Grace Davies came out. I looked at her and asked, "Is Leo Hayes asleep?" Grace Davies nodded in response. "Can I sleep with Leo Hayes tonight? I won't disturb him. I'll just watch him sleep, okay?" Grace Davies looked at me deeply, then finally nodded. "Do as you wish. Just don't wake him up. He's a light sleeper." With that, she turned and went back to her own bedroom. After washing up, I tiptoed into Leo Hayes' bedroom. A night light was on by the bedside, illuminating Leo Hayes' sleeping profile. I sat by Leo Hayes' bed, staring unblinkingly at the sleeping child. My gaze traced his eyebrows, his features, over and over again, like a greedy mouse hiding in the shadows, only daring to peek at something precious protected by others. Not daring to approach, I took out my phone and snapped many photos and recorded many videos. I searched Leo Hayes' room for a long time, taking pictures of his clothes, toys, books, and handwriting. I didn't know when I would be able to return once I left, so I had to selfishly leave myself some keepsakes. With that thought, I made a video call to Mrs. Hayes. It should have been Mrs. Hayes' bedtime, but she answered as soon as I called. I looked at Mrs. Hayes' face on the screen, seeing the increased white hairs, and the suppressed sadness in my heart erupted again. I simply opened my mouth and softly called out, "Mom?" Mrs. Hayes immediately noticed my unusual behavior and quickly asked, "What's wrong? Did something happen? Or is there a problem with Leo Hayes and Grace?" I shook my head. "No, everything is fine. I just miss you and Mr. Hayes." Hearing this, Mrs. Hayes nudged the person beside her. The next second, Mr. Hayes also appeared on screen. Mr. Hayes and Mrs. Hayes asked the same question, and I told them everything was fine, son. Tell us the truth. Has something happened? You've never called us at this hour, nor have you called without speaking, just looking at us. We don't know what's going on with you, but if you need us, we'll come right away. I thought for a moment, then decided to tell them about my plan to leave. After listening, Mr. and Mrs. Hayes fell into a brief silence. It's all right. If you've made up your mind, then go. It's a good deed for the benefit of the nation and its people. Your dad and I won't stop you. Just remember to take care of yourself when you're there. And don't overwork yourself. Mrs. Hayes started crying as she spoke, because the time was too short, and Mr. and Mrs. Hayes lived far away. There wasn't enough time for them to travel back and forth. I could only say goodbye to them this way. Dad, Mom, someone will take care of you after I leave, and arrange regular health checkups for you. I will allocate half of all my assets to you. The remaining half I've left to Grace and Leo Hayes, because it will be difficult for her to raise the child alone after I leave. I've also submitted a report to the higher-ups that I will divorce her, and the child will stay with her. You can call or visit regularly, even if she remarries, as long as she treats the child well. It's fine. Finally, I said sincerely to Mr. and Mrs. Hayes' dad. Mom, I'm sorry. Your son has been unfilial. The next day, I woke up early and made breakfast. Under their shocked and surprised gazes, I saw them off as they headed off to work and school. Before Leo Hayes left, I tried to touch his head and hug him, but he dodged both attempts. He looked at me with disgust, turned, and ran out quickly. Grace Davies also gave me a meaningful look and quickly followed him out. I stood at the doorway, watching them leave. Then I cleaned the house thoroughly and reorganized my belongings. In the afternoon, I went to pick Grace Davies up from work, but I saw Ethan Riley get there before me. I watched them get into the car and drive to a restaurant. I stood by the roadside, watching them eat dinner, laughing and chatting. Suddenly, my phone rang. Hello, Marcus. Have you packed your things? Your application has been approved, and someone has already been dispatched to pick you up. It wasn't supposed to be 3 days. Why so fast? Within 3 days. You're so outstanding. They looked at your application first. I gave a bitter laugh, quietly agreed, then hung up the phone and turned to go home to get my things. The moment I turned, Grace Davies in the restaurant also turned and saw my retreating back. She felt a flicker of confusion, but didn't pay it much mind. After she finished her meal, she finally noticed the message I had sent her. I'm leaving. Please pick up our son. Also, I've signed the divorce agreement and left it in the study. Please sign it. Someone else will handle the subsequent matters. Grace Davies, confused, sent a question mark back, only to find that I had blocked her. She tried calling me again, but it went straight to voicemail. The moment Grace Davies entered the house, she started calling my name. Marcus Hayes, come out. She called out while dialing my phone, but no matter how many times she tried, the call didn't connect. Ethan Riley, who had been following her, also looked helpless, not knowing what was wrong with her or why she was suddenly looking for me. Grace, what's wrong? Is there something you need Marcus for? Ethan Riley had known Grace Davies for 10 years. In his eyes, Grace Davies had always been elegant, poised, polite, and self-possessed. She had never been so panicked, out of control, or screaming and yelling, completely losing her composure. I'm fine. Can you please pick up Leo Hayes for me? I have something to deal with here right now. Ethan Riley opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but didn't. Finally, he just nodded and left. As soon as Ethan Riley walked out the door, Grace Davies began searching for me in every corner of the house. She rushed upstairs, searched the bedroom, and found that all my belongings were gone. As if remembering something, she rushed to my study. She burst into the study and immediately saw the divorce agreement on the desk, along with a picture of our happy family of 3 taken on Leo Hayes' 1-month celebration. Beside it lay a debit card and the first gift I gave her after we became a couple, a custom-made crystal couple figurine. Our names and birthdays were engraved on the base, but now, only half of the figurine remained, just the girl's side. The boy's half was gone. Grace Davies held the figurine, crying heartbrokenly. She knew how precious that gift was to me, how I always kept it in the study cabinet and polished it every time I came home. She finally realized that the person she had seen at the restaurant earlier must have been me. I must have seen her and Ethan Riley eating, gotten angry, and left. I wouldn't truly be angry enough to abandon her and Leo Hayes. Soon, Ethan Riley returned with Leo Hayes. Seeing Grace Davies crying so hysterically, both of them were panicked. Leo Hayes quickly ran to Grace Davies, hugging her and comforting her. Mommy, don't cry. Leo is here. Did that bad family member bully Mommy again? Mommy, don't be angry. I'll make him leave. He won't hurt Mommy anymore." Ethan Riley, standing beside them, also noticed the items on the table, especially the divorce agreement, and his eyes instantly lit up. "Grace, he's willing to divorce you." "That's wonderful." "No, I won't divorce him. I absolutely won't divorce him." Grace Davies looked up, tears in her eyes, but her gaze was incredibly firm. Meeting Grace Davies's gaze, Ethan Riley felt his heart sink. He slowly knelt down, his eyes filled with sadness and panic, and asked helplessly, "Why? Didn't you say you didn't love him?" "Who said I don't love him?" Grace Davies retorted. "But you." Ethan Riley didn't finish his sentence. He carefully recalled all their interactions, and Grace Davies indeed had never told him that she didn't love me. He quietly watched Grace Davies, a bitter smile creeping onto his lips. He hadn't expected that the person he had silently loved for so many years, the one who had looked at him with such astonishment and joy when he reappeared successful and accomplished, still didn't love him in the end. No, more accurately, she might have liked him, but because of my departure, that liking was instantly extinguished, pushing her affection back to the realm of friendship. In the end, only he was left with nothing. Grace Davies shifted her gaze back to the small child clinging to her, her voice filled with coaxing. She softly said, "Leo, be good. Daddy is leaving us now. Let's go find Daddy together, okay?" "Why do we need to find him? Isn't it better if he leaves?" Leo Hayes asked, confused. "No. This time Daddy is really angry. We have to bring him back. He's your dad. He's our family, understand?" Grace Davies's voice unconsciously grew louder, startling Leo Hayes into tears. Leo Hayes looked at Grace Davies with tear-filled eyes, slowly nodding. "Okay, Mom, I'll go with you to find Daddy, bring Daddy back, and we'll be a family." Hearing this, Grace Davies finally smiled with satisfaction. She raised her hand and gently stroked Leo Hayes's head, praising him for being so good. "Grace Davies and I had been married for many years. She thought she understood me well enough. This big scene might mean I was truly angry, but she believed I would be reluctant to divorce. She knew how much I loved her, how much I loved Leo Hayes, and how much I yearned for a complete family, so divorce was absolutely impossible. This could only be a tactic to make her and Leo Hayes come back to me." That evening, Grace Davies called Mrs. Hayes. On the phone, she asked Mrs. Hayes, "Mom, has Marcus Hayes returned?" "No, Marcus left, didn't he? Why would he be back?" Hearing this, Grace Davies understood that Mr. and Mrs. Hayes knew my whereabouts. The next morning, Grace Davies took Leo Hayes and boarded a plane to my hometown, and Ethan Riley, still unwilling to give up, followed behind her. At p.m., Grace Davies, with Leo Hayes and Ethan Riley trailing behind, appeared at the door of my hometown house. She knocked on the door, and Mrs. Hayes opened it. Upon seeing Grace Davies and Leo Hayes, Mrs. Hayes was initially delighted, but when she saw the man standing behind them, her face instantly fell. "Why did you bring him? Are you trying to show off while my son is away?" Grace Davies turned, looked awkwardly at Ethan Riley, then turned back to Mrs. Hayes and explained helplessly, "Mom, you misunderstood. Marcus suddenly disappeared, and I couldn't find him." Ethan Riley was also worried when he heard the news and wanted to help us look, and it's quite far to come here. So he came along because he was worried. "What do you mean by that? What does he have to worry about regarding you?" Mrs. Hayes couldn't help but sneer. "Who is he to you? What right and what standing does he have to worry about you?" Grace Davies's temper was on the verge of snapping, but she gritted her teeth and held it in. She took a deep breath, suppressing her irritation, and patiently asked, "Mom, I'm here to find Marcus. Do you know where he is?" "He left, didn't he?" Mrs. Hayes said this, then realized something was off. On the phone the night before, I had told them I would divorce Grace Davies. Since I had mentioned divorce and even leaving property, Mrs. Hayes thought we had talked everything through and that Grace Davies knew what I was doing. But from last night's phone call to Grace Davies bringing Leo Hayes to the door now, Grace Davies was only asking for my whereabouts. Could it be that I hadn't told them the truth? With this thought, Mrs. Hayes pressed Grace Davies again. "Marcus told you about the divorce, didn't he?" Grace Davies thought of the signed divorce agreement on my study desk. She nodded slightly. "Yes, I know exactly. He told you about the divorce, so shouldn't you know everything about his affairs? Why are you asking now?" Mrs. Hayes's counter-question left Grace Davies speechless again. "Marcus only left the divorce agreement. He didn't say anything else." Hearing this, Mrs. Hayes finally understood. "Oh, well, if he didn't say anything, then just pretend you don't know. I know where Marcus went, and you know he always makes his own decisions. We don't understand anything, so we can't help, Mrs. Hayes knew that the research I was doing was top secret. Since I hadn't told Grace Davies, she naturally wouldn't tell her either. No, Mom, don't lie to me. You must know where Marcus went. Please tell me. Facing Grace Davies's insistence, Mrs. Hayes explained helplessly. Grace, I know you look down on Marcus. You think he only cares about research, that he's boring and unromantic, and not worthy of you. Now that Marcus has filed for divorce, it's like your wish has come true. Before Marcus left, he told us that no matter if you remarry in the future, as long as you treat the child well, that's enough. We will also check on the child regularly. As parents, we don't have grand ambitions. We just want our son to be happy, so please respect his choice. Before her words had even faded, Mr. Hayes also appeared at the door. He looked at Grace Davies and said, "We've told you everything we need to. If there's nothing else, please leave." "No, I won't leave," Grace Davies refused, shaking her head. "I'll wait for Marcus to come back." With that, Grace Davies tried to push her way in with Leo Hayes, but Mr. and Mrs. Hayes blocked them at the door. "Grace Davies, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to come here with your adulterer to humiliate us while my son is away?" Mr. Hayes's voice was icy, his gaze sharp, and his eyes were filled with anger as he looked at Grace Davies. Grace Davies quickly explained, "No, Dad, you misunderstood me. Ethan Riley was just worried about Leo Hayes and me having trouble on the road, so he just drove us here. There's really nothing between us." Ethan Riley stood behind Grace Davies, wanting to speak but not knowing what to say. His repeated hesitations were noticed by Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. Grace Davies still ended up staying with Leo Hayes. As for Ethan Riley, due to his status, he couldn't stay and had to reside at the local motel. Now, the most frequent topic of conversation between Grace Davies and Mr. and Mrs. Hayes was my whereabouts, and Ethan Riley also consistently visited Grace Davies and her son every day. While trying to persuade Grace Davies to return with him, their words and actions made it seem as if they were truly a happy family of three. Finally, Mr. and Mrs. Hayes couldn't take it anymore and decided to kick Grace Davies and Ethan Riley out. "Can't you just leave? He comes to our house every day looking for you. How do you expect others to see Marcus, and how do you expect them to see our Hayes family?" "No, I won't go." Grace Davies still refused. "Unless you tell me where Marcus Hayes went. We don't know. We've told you many times. We don't know." Seeing Mrs. Hayes's firm attitude, Grace Davies's patience ran out. "You just don't want to tell me. Marcus Hayes must be colluding with you to trick me. Let me tell you, Marcus Hayes and I are legally married. We have legal protection, as long as I don't sign. As long as I refuse to divorce. He'll be tied to my side for life." After saying that, she turned her anger on Ethan Riley. "You should leave right now. Nobody here welcomes you." Ethan Riley stared blankly at Grace Davies, unable to believe those words were spoken to him by Grace Davies. "Grace Davies, what do you mean? Don't tell me you've fallen in love with Marcus Hayes now. What do I even mean to you then?" His voice trembled slightly. He had loved Grace Davies for 10 years, a whole decade. He had dedicated so much time and effort, showering her with gifts and surprises, and even willingly coming to their home to be their personal assistant and care for her and her son. But now, Grace Davies was telling him to leave, saying she didn't welcome him. In his pursuit of Grace Davies, he had endured countless glares and mockery behind his back. Being called a doormat who would end up with nothing, Grace Davies sneered, looking up and glancing at him lightly. "Ethan Riley, I remember rejecting you a long time ago. You were the one who asked if we could be friends. And that's why I agreed to let you stay by my side. I never asked you to do anything for me, and I hardly ever took anything you offered. Even if I did accept something, I would always repay you in another way later. Between us, no one owes anyone anything. You did it all willingly, and I haven't treated you badly. Now you're interfering in my affairs, and I can't even ask you to leave?" Grace Davies spoke lightly, but Ethan Riley felt as if Grace Davies was tearing off his skin and stepping on it. Just then, her son stood in front of Ethan Riley, crying as he said to Grace Davies, "Mommy, you can't make Uncle Ethan leave. If you make Uncle Ethan leave, I'll go with Uncle Ethan." Grace Davies was stunned. She hadn't expected her own son to side with an outsider at such a moment, standing against her, fuming. Grace Davies pulled her son closer and gave him a few spanks on his bottom. "Leo Hayes, let me tell you, I'm your mother, and they are your grandpa and grandma Hayes. We are family, and we're here to find your dad. How dare you side with an outsider right now? If you hadn't always treated your dad so poorly, he wouldn't have wanted to leave so badly." Her son nestled in Grace Davies's arms, crying loudly and struggling. "Mommy, you're mean. You were the one who told me Daddy was bad, that Daddy didn't care about the family, that Daddy didn't love me as much as Uncle Ethan, and wasn't as helpful or understanding as Uncle Ethan. You don't even like Daddy yourself, and now you're blaming me. I hate you." Hearing this, the other three were all shocked, especially Ethan Riley, whose face turned terrifyingly dark. "Grace Davies, you're something else. So in your eyes, I was just an obedient, helpful personal assistant. You're truly ruthless." With that, he left without looking back. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes looked at each other, and finally, Mrs. Hayes knelt down and pulled her son out of Grace Davies's arms, patiently coaxing him. "Leo, darling, you don't have to listen only to her. Not everything she says is entirely true. Your dad might have been busy with work and couldn't take good care of you, but he did it all to give you a better life. You probably don't know, but your dad often video called us at night, sitting in your bedroom, watching you chat with us. We often saw you too." Hearing this, Leo Hayes's eyes widened, and he stammered, "Really? Does Daddy really love me?" "Of course, your dad is the person who loves you most in this world." Saying that, she gently hugged her son again. The moment Grace Davies met Mrs. Hayes's gaze, she nervously shrunk her neck. "Grace Davies, I can't believe you would teach a child these things. How old is he? And you're telling him such things. Are you only happy if you make Leo hate Marcus?" "Mrs. Hayes, I didn't. I was just complaining casually." Mrs. Hayes sneered. "Casual complaints don't make a child remember things so clearly, do they? You must have complained quite a bit. Even though my son is busy, don't you know how he treated you? If my son hadn't given you all his money to support your business and helped you seek connections everywhere, would you have the good life you have now? If I had known you would raise the child like this, I shouldn't have let him stay with you then." Mrs. Hayes's tone shifted. "No, I shouldn't have agreed to Marcus marrying you in the first place, knowing what you're like. It's only right that Marcus left." Grace Davies wanted to say something else but was jointly driven out by Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. Her son ultimately couldn't bear to leave Grace Davies and went with her, watching the two, one big and one small, walk away. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes stood at the doorstep, tears streaming down their faces. "If I had known Marcus was going through so much, I should have visited him more often," Mrs. Hayes said, sobbing as she wiped away tears. Mr. Hayes echoed, "It's all right. It's not too late now. Marcus is capable of making his own decisions. Perhaps leaving now was the best time." As parents, they always had endless tolerance for their child. Now, all they asked was for me to do my own thing and take care of myself. After Grace Davies took her son back, she immediately went to see Professor Thompson. Facing Grace Davies, Professor Thompson was very calm, as if he had long known she would come to him. With red eyes, she questioned Professor Thompson. "Where is Marcus Hayes? Why can't I reach him?" "I'm sorry. I cannot tell you Marcus's whereabouts. You know his identity is special. I have no right to tell you where he is. Most importantly, I don't know where he went either." Grace Davies's eyes widened. "What do you mean? Do you really not know? Or are you just unwilling to tell me?" Professor Thompson said expressionlessly, "I don't know, and I'm unwilling to tell you. Professor Thompson, I beg you, please tell me Marcus Hayes's whereabouts. My child and I cannot live without him. He is our husband, my child's father. Don't we have the right to know where he is?" Professor Thompson sighed helplessly and tried to persuade her again. "Grace, Marcus told me before he left that he would divorce you. Since you're going to divorce, why are you still looking for him?" "No, I didn't agree to a divorce. We have a child. Marcus loves me so much. He would never divorce me." Hearing this, Professor Thompson instinctively frowned. "Grace, you say Marcus loves you, but what about you? Do you love Marcus?" Grace Davies nodded. "Of course, I love him. Then what about that man named Ethan? As far as I know, your relationship with him is quite deep. You're often seen together, and he even occasionally stays overnight at your house. How do you explain that?" "To put it bluntly, you could be considered to have cheated, to be the party at fault, but Marcus isn't pursuing anything instead. He's left you a way out. Be sensible and sign the divorce agreement." With that, Professor Thompson prepared to leave. Professor Thompson clearly knew that I had conceded to this point entirely for Leo Hayes's sake. Grace Davies quickly grabbed Professor Thompson's clothes, humbly pleading. "I didn't cheat, Ethan Riley, and I have nothing going on. We are innocent. If Marcus wants to divorce me for that reason, he's simply misunderstanding me. Professor Thompson, please tell me where Marcus Hayes is. I'll go find him. I'll explain it to him face to face. I beg you." Professor Thompson turned back to look at Grace Davies and chuckled lightly. "I don't know, but I advise you to sign the divorce agreement quickly. Dragging it out too long won't be good for you or your child. I won't sign. Until I see Marcus Hayes, I won't sign. There's a misunderstanding between us, and I need to clarify it." Professor Thompson ignored her and turned to enter the Apex Institute, and Grace Davies was blocked at the entrance. No matter how she called out, no one paid her any attention. The current Grace Davies was completely devoid of her usual refined appearance. Grace Davies used to be a small business owner, with her own Grace's Company and Grace's Dance Studio. Every day, she would leave the house with exquisite makeup and dressed in elegant, designer clothes. But now, her hair was a mess, her face haggard, and her clothes disheveled, like a beggar. Later, she sent many people to search for my whereabouts, staking out my house and the Apex Institute, and also contacting friends I used to know. Even places I used to frequent were under surveillance, but for 2 months straight, she received no news of my whereabouts. There were also no records of her buying tickets to leave through various channels and transportation methods. Only then did Grace Davies finally confirm that I was gone. She couldn't find me. But apart from her, it seemed everyone else knew where I had gone. Afterward, Ethan Riley came to see Grace Davies again, but Grace Davies gave the same answer, and this time, she completely offended Ethan Riley. Ethan Riley publicly announced that he had no further connection with Grace Davies. As soon as the news broke, all the people who had previously supported Grace Davies' small company out of respect for Ethan Riley withdrew their help. Several ongoing collaborations for the company fell through, and employees resigned en masse. Coupled with the behind-the-scenes efforts of those who had once admired Ethan Riley, her small company went bankrupt in less than a month. Grace Davies, in despair, completely broke down. Now, all she had left was her son. She could only hold on to her son tightly, crying and asking him, "Leo, will you leave Mommy?" Her son was scared to death, crying and shaking his head. "No, I won't leave Mommy. I'll stay with Mommy forever." Her son didn't know what had happened. He knew that Uncle Ethan, who used to be so good to him, had argued with Mommy and wouldn't be visiting him anymore. Now, he only had his Mommy. After a good cry, Grace Davies accepted reality. I was gone and wouldn't be coming back. Ethan Riley had also been driven away and wouldn't help her anymore. She had to pull herself together and support the home that now only consisted of her and her son. She believed that as long as she didn't sign, I would definitely come back. And at this moment, I was wearing a protective suit, goggles, a mask, and gloves, diligently conducting the experiment at hand. Before me lay various instruments and various beakers and vials, filled with solutions of different colors and rare materials. The people sharing the laboratory with me were just like me. We shared a common goal, the same ideas, all for the better realization of what we sought and envisioned. Here, I wouldn't think about Grace Davies. I would only think about how to perfect the experimental procedure, how to make the experimental data more precise, and whether the experimental results could meet expectations or be maximized. I stayed here for 17 years. In 17 years, we completed the experiment, achieving the most ideal values for the results. When I walked out of the Apex Institute, I was almost 48 years old. After leaving, I first went to visit Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. Fortunately, Mr. and Mrs. Hayes were still alive and well, and the country had taken very good care of them. But time had still left its mark on their faces, and their hair had turned gray. The moment I saw them, I knelt down straight. I knelt down and bowed deeply 3 times to Mr. and Mrs. Hayes. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes didn't stop me. Of course, they never had on this day. A happy family of 3 was reunited. Mrs. Hayes was very happy and personally cooked many of my favorite dishes. Tasting Mrs. Hayes's cooking, my tears flowed uncontrollably again. The taste was so fragrant and delicious. It was forever Mrs. Hayes's taste. That night, we talked a lot. Mr. and Mrs. Hayes told me what they had seen and heard during those 17 years. I also openly shared everything about our 17 years. The 3 of us had an unspoken understanding and didn't mention Grace Davies or Leo Hayes, to my surprise. Grace Davies and Leo Hayes came looking for me the very next day. The moment Leo Hayes saw me, he knelt down straight in front of me, just as I had when I saw Mr. and Mrs. Hayes, he cried, saying he was wrong, pleading for my forgiveness, Dad. I'm sorry, I was wrong. I was a jerk before. Please forgive me. Leo Hayes had grown up now. He had his own life and path. I smiled and helped him up, only then realizing he was taller than me. I gently patted his shoulder, a look of gratification on my face. At the same time, I shifted my gaze to the woman standing beside him. The woman quickly lowered her head after meeting my gaze. The clothes she was wearing looked newly bought because the creases were still visible. Her hands were tightly clasped together, rubbing them occasionally. I knew she was Grace Davies, Dad. This is my mom. Can you still recognize her? Hearing this, Grace Davies instinctively looked up, meeting my gaze again. Only then did I get a clear look at Grace Davies's face. She looked much older than I had imagined, with deep wrinkles on her face and a somewhat bloated figure. I didn't know what they had been through to force Grace Davies, who once loved beauty the most, had studied dance since childhood, and was strictly self-disciplined, into this state. Grace Davies spoke first. Marcus Hayes, it's been so many years. How have you been? I nodded. I've been good. How about you? More than 10 years later, past loves and hates had long faded away. Facing Grace Davies now, my heart was as calm as still water, filled with the joy of reuniting with a long-lost friend. Grace Davies was about to say something, but Leo Hayes spoke first. We haven't been doing well. Hearing that they hadn't been doing well, my eyes instantly widened. Then, Leo Hayes, like pouring beans from a bamboo tube, rattled off all their experiences from those years. Only then did I learn that after I left, Grace Davies not only didn't end up with Ethan Riley but was also targeted to this extent. I'm sorry, I said very earnestly to Grace Davies. If it weren't for me, if I hadn't left, perhaps you could have had a better life, Dad. We don't blame you. If it weren't for the money you left behind, and the help from Grandpa and Grandma Hayes and Professor Thompson, we would have starved. When he said this, I felt even worse, but ultimately, I am your father. I should have taken care of you, but instead, I chose something else and pushed this responsibility onto others. Leo Hayes then realized he had said something wrong and wanted to explain but didn't know how. Finally, he apologized again. Dad, I'm sorry. I was just talking nonsense. Please don't overthink it, okay? I smiled and nodded, indicating it was fine. Later, I went to see Professor Thompson again. Professor Thompson was very old now, completely retired and resting at home. He was very happy to see me return. We talked all night, discussing everything. The next day, I received news that the drug we had been researching had completely succeeded in clinical trials for cancer cells. It could more precisely and absolutely eliminate cancer cells. This research was publicized worldwide and successfully won the Nobel Prize in Medicine the following year. Our team became famous, giving interview after interview, and lecturing at one medical school after another. Grace Davies and I also tacitly stopped mentioning the divorce until just before she passed away. She had overworked herself so much over the years that her body was already depleted. It was truly difficult for her to have held on until then. Leo Hayes and I stood by her hospital bed. A smile was on her face, and she looked at me without blinking. She said, "You're almost 60, and still so handsome, you know. The first time I saw you, I thought you were handsome, otherwise, I wouldn't have agreed to your pursuit. It's just a pity that later, I took the wrong path. Can you forgive me?" I shook my head. Just as she thought I wouldn't forgive her, I spoke. "I never blamed you. I only blamed myself for not being capable enough to give you a better life." She cried, and Leo Hayes also cried. Finally, she said intermittently, "I'm sorry. I occupied you for so many years. Now I'm setting you free. Will you be happier?" With that, she pulled out the divorce agreement from under her pillow. She had already signed it, and with trembling hands, she handed it to me. I took it and placed it aside. "I signed this agreement a long time ago, in the 3rd month after you left. I just never gave it to you." She then looked at Leo Hayes, apologizing again. "Leo, Mommy is sorry. Mommy pushed you too hard all these years. You must have been very upset." Leo Hayes shook his head, crying. "No, I'm fine. I'm very grateful for Mommy's upbringing." The three of us crowded into a hospital room, apologizing back and forth, recounting the harm our mistakes had caused others. Finally, Grace Davies closed her eyes with a satisfied smile on her face. Leo Hayes cried loudly, and my heart was also filled with bitterness. I had thought that when I faced Grace Davies again, I would feel no joy or sorrow. But watching her leave before me, my heart still ached terribly. Later, I saw Mr. and Mrs. Hayes off, then I watched Leo Hayes get married and have children, building his own family. I lived for over 70 years and felt very content. Before I passed away, I looked at my son and daughter-in-law, and my grandchildren, and reflected on my life. I thought, I am content with this life. Bonus chapter: Leo Hayes. After Dad passed away, the only person left in this world who loved me most was my current wife. I wrote my short half-life into a book. In the book, I portrayed myself as a little terror who was spoiled beyond measure, because the truth was, that's exactly what I was like as a child. I wrote about the dad my mom talked about, the mom my dad talked about, and the mom and dad I saw with my own eyes. Some readers said the characters felt fractured and contradictory. I replied with a smile, because my parents were different in each other's eyes, and in my eyes, Mom once said she had failed Dad's love, that she wasn't worthy of it. Dad once said that the people he felt most sorry for in his life were Mom and me. After they passed away, I wanted to tell them that I wasn't the most well-behaved child in their eyes. When I was little and Dad was around, I wasn't good to him. Then Dad left, and I only had Mom. But I wasn't good to Mom either. I listened to Mom very well, but that was all I did listen. It was as if there was an invisible, intangible, transparent wall between Mom and me. We looked at each other across the wall, familiar yet strange. Only when Dad returned did that wall come crashing down. I briefly experienced the happiness of a family and tried hard to be a good son, but then Mom left. After Mom left, there seemed to be another wall between Dad and me, still invisible and intangible, but this time, no one helped us break down this wall. Later, we coexisted across that wall for over 10 years. Finally, after Dad looked at me and said I'm sorry, the wall fell, and he was gone too. People, are always caught in an endless cycle of regret and remorse. Later, I learned to be a good husband and father, but the one role I never got the chance to try again was being a son. This regret permeated the rest of my life. I think I must have been smiling when I passed away, because I would be able to see Mom and Dad again. Mom and Dad, I'm so happy. Mom and Dad, I'm coming to find you. In our next life, we'll be the happiest family of 3.